Steyer gave her the news. It held back all night.
All right. So whenever you're ready, Lee.
Okay, I'm just going to try one thing here. Okay, I think that got it. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
How long until people start? We'll just, this way we don't have to make him wait too long.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd just like to.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I'd just like to welcome everybody here today into the virtual branch of the Massapequa Public Library, where we bring you the finest in lectures by local authors. And today, we're going to bring you a talk by Steve Kaminsky about his book, Anything Can Happen.
That's actually wrong.
Anything is possible. Okay, let me try that again.
You didn't want me to do it? I'll take
two.
You actually have the book. You actually have the book in front of you, which is even sadder.
We'll let right, exactly. We'll let Steve pitch his book, which evidently I got the title wrong for. I see what the correct title is now in my head, but anyway, though, that said, we want to thank Steve for coming down to give us a talk about Jack Lalanne, a really important person that we all owe to from the 20th century. And we thought it would be a good idea to do this talk because it is January, and January is a time for new beginnings and, New Year's resolutions and all those kind of things. And sorry, I botched the name of the book, Steve.
Oh, that's quite right.
Hand it over to you, and
Thank you, sir.
I will fade into the background.
Okay.
As soon as I figure out how to do that.
That's all right.
Yeah, sure.
That's good. Okay. There you go. First of all, thank you all so much. That's such a great turnout. I know we were originally supposed to do this event in person, but I think this is actually turning. I don't think I would have had nearly as many. I think I would have been standing in front of just myself and Lee, and maybe a couple of family members. So this is super, and wanted to thank you guys. And thank the library. Lee really did a super job, other than missing the title of the book. Everything else he did was fantastic. Just organizing the event, getting the word out to everybody. And yeah, this way you know the title of the book. It's easy. Anything is possible. The Jack Lalanne Story. So this way everybody's at the right event, the right virtual event. This is not an intro to iPhone apps or anything like that. Yes, like Lee said, I had published this book last year, and January is always a New Year's resolution time. It's always, coming into the new year, everybody always has a lot of goals and things that they set in January. Hopefully everybody's bearing the cold weather. I am not a cold weather person, so it's only 2 months until spring, so hang in there. But we decided, just to give you a little background of myself, I work as a personal trainer. Aside being a writer, an actor, I host a podcast show called The Steve Squared Show from Governor's Comedy Club in Levittown. And I'm also a personal trainer. So as a personal trainer, this is kind of where this all ties in. I used to work, now I work independently, but before the pandemic, I was working for health clubs, and I worked for Bally Total Fitness. I'm sure I probably lost about 25 people clicked off right now. So hang in there. I don't work for them anymore, and I can't settle any of your old disputes. I'm sorry. But I'll have a number posted for you. But I worked for Bally Total Fitness, and before it was Bally's, it was a Jack Lalanne health spa. I'm sure many of you maybe remember that. Maybe some of you were members of there. I dug up so you guys can see. This is an old Jack Lalanne health spa pass. It's worthless now.
They're doing it. So they're looking for that 3 times.
Wow, I think I hear like a harmonica. But a lot of people would talk about Jack Lalanne, mention Jack Lalanne, and I know a lot of us have heard of Jack Lalanne, and really my only recollection of him was seeing him on infomercials, 2 o'clock in the morning, the juicer, and with his wife Elaine, and that's really all I knew about him. And as a avid reader, I love to read biographies about people's lives to see, how they get to the final point of their success. And I went to the library, and they did not have any book on Jack Lalanne. They had books on Arnold Schwarzenegger, old Richard Simmons, whose real name is not Richard Simmons, it's actually Milton, but he changed it for that, so I threw in a little factoid. Actually, in the book, which is what I do in the book, is I throw in a lot of what's called factoids, little trivia, just to make the book kind of fun and interesting, so you kind of learn something at the same time. So there you go. Richard Simmons' real name is Milton. So if you come away from this event, you know his real name. But I decided then that I was thinking of doing a book, and I said, I'm going to do a book on the life of Jack Lalanne. And I started doing research and really seeing the impact. I didn't even realize the impact as myself, someone in the industry, that he has made. Really, if you trace it back, the timeline of fitness, there's before Jack Lalanne and after Jack Lalanne. Before Jack Lalanne, fitness really wasn't anything in the mainstream of the United States or anywhere around the world. It was really an oddity. People, maybe there was the strongman in the competition that was on Coney Island lifting heavy weights, or at the circus, or it really, you'd have to be an extreme bodybuilder. It really wasn't people running where you'd see today on every street corner, jogging or biking or doing all these things. It was really set aside to a certain group of people. And actually, Elaine, Jack's wife, mentions that even back then, Jack Lalanne used to do his fitness shows in ballet slippers because they didn't have sneakers really back then. So there wasn't, he wore these kind of ballet slippers, which was his whole look. So I said, let me start delving in. And when Jack Lalanne came on the scene, he really made fitness mainstream across the country. Just to I'll just give you some numbers, which is actually pretty interesting. It's actually, if you know, the fitness industry today, with all nutrition, with all health clubs, it's a $30 billion a year industry. 400,000 health clubs across the country, with probably close to 70 million members, some of who actually attend regularly, I hope. But it's really all back to him, to Jack Lalanne, and what he had done to put this on the map. His story is actually pretty interesting. His grandparents were from France, and they moved to New Orleans. He's from French descent. They moved to New Orleans and then moved the whole family to California to settle in San Francisco. And Jack's father was an electrician, just like my dad. My dad's a retired electrician. That was also key, and I show in the book, there's a lot of parallels between Jack Lalanne. I try to embed a lot of my personal experiences. My dad still works out to this day. In his house, they have, my dad has a huge garage gym, and we still do workouts there, which is awesome. So he was, Jack's dad was an electrician. His mother worked as a maid, and they met at a dance, and because the father also earned extra money as a dance instructor. So they settle in San Francisco, and they have two children, his older brother in 1908, and then Jack is born. Actually, his real name is Henri Francois Lalane, which would be too long to put on a Jim, so luckily he changed it to Jack. And so now he's born in 1914. And at that time, like I said, really there's really not much fitness going on. The only person really that Jack is kind of can see as he's growing up is there's a gentleman named, and I'll give you his Italian name, was Angelo Siciliano, better known as Charles Atlas. And you can see here I have one of these old Charles Atlas kits. A friend of mine gave this to me, and it's kind of funny. Charles Atlas was dubbed the world's most perfect specimen, and other than the cool trunks, I'm not sure about that. But his kit didn't include much other than a ruler and some kind of exercises. But Charles Atlas was more of a kind of a showman, a carny. He really was not putting fitness to mainstream people. So Jack didn't really, his father then got into World War One came, and Jack's father had a lot of problems. He was an alcoholic and really had to be admitted, and really wasn't in Jack's life for Jack's youth. So the mother took the two kids and moved to live with the grandfather on a farm. And so Jack's upbringing was really working on a farm, and it was a tough, kind of very Little House on the Prairie type of upbringing. And so when Jack was a child, his mother had a little strong, strict background, but Jack was a really wild child. I mean, he was out of control. He tried to kill his brother with an axe, um, which I have never done. I know my brother's watching, and so I hope you appreciate that, Nick. But he was out of control. I mean, he was suspended from school, fighting. He really had a lot of trouble as he suffered from depression, a lot of anxiety. He had acne. He really attributes a lot of it to sugar, and he called himself a sugarholic actually as a kid. His mother used to appease him by just giving him sweets or sugars, and that's really he always talks about. He goes, I was a sugarholic, and that was why I was kind of like the way I was. Um, as a child, he had two near-death experiences. One, he fell and he had to have surgery on his ear, which was very complicated. Another time, he suffered from a really high fever. He about 105 fever, and instead of them taking him to a doctor, which you probably would do today, the mother and the neighborhood held a vigil, um, and it was a big Seventh Day Adventist kind of vigil. The Seventh Day Adventists at that time, they were a kind of a strict religious background of people. They preached abstinence, vegan. It was actually started by John Kellogg, who was later on Kellogg cereal. So that's all in the book. You can read all that kind of stuff. But luckily, without a doctor, Jack was still able to recover. And so those two moments were, really pivotal that he was able to kind of overcome those near-death experiences. So as Jack is growing up and he's having all these troubles, kicked out of school and nowhere else to turn, a neighbor comes to his mom and says, there's a lecture at the local lecture hall, the Women's Coliseum in Oakland. This gentleman, Paul Bragg, is coming to speak on health and fitness, and I think that would be good for Jack. And so they go, and the place was crowded. There was no room left, so they were turning around to leave, and the lecturer, Paul Bragg, he stopped them. He said, nobody gets turned away. He brings them on stage, and he sets up two chairs. And Jack was mortified because he was a very shy kid, and he was now sitting on stage. But he was just completely mesmerized by this speaker. This guy, Paul Bragg, was at the time was kind of a part Anthony Robbins type of guy, Tony Robbins, very motivational speaker. But he talked about you could change your life today. You can, no matter what you do in life, you don't have to wait till January 1st or New Year's or Monday. Today is the day you could be reborn again. And that, Jack went home that night, and it just changed his life. That was it. He never had sugar again. He got back into school. He started doing sports. He played football, and he was a great football player. And Jack was a very small guy. For his size, he was I kind of write in the book that he was this larger than life figure in about a 5'5" frame. So he was a very tough kid, but he suffered a bad knee injury in football. So he joined the YMCA and tried to get into swimming. That's where he kind of got his swimming prowess. And he used to see two guys exercising with weights. And they put him in a lockbox, and he asked them if he could have access, and they said no. And then there's this whole story how he challenged them. He said, if I beat you two in a wrestling match, Jack was good at also wrestling, they would give him access to the weights, and he beat them. And so then now Jack has his first access to weights, and he starts getting involved and exercising. He subscribes to the only magazine there is at the time for fitness, which is called Strength and Health, and he starts really absorbing as much material as possible, which wasn't a lot at the time. He gets a medical almanac, and he starts reading about the body, and he really gets interested. So he's really changing his life, his body, and he starts trying to help other people. So he starts his own gym in his backyard, and he literally is now he's helping people, policemen, pass their tests, and he's really passing on. He has this passion to help other lives. Like, there's a couple of quotes. Jack always says, like, my goal has always been to help people help themselves. And that was a big thing for him. He really preached that. He really wanted people to learn how to help themselves. And he started this gym, and it started to become pretty successful. And his dad, it's kind of murky, but his dad later on enters back into the picture and gives Jack a $200 loan to open up his own gym. So he gives him a $200 loan at 47% interest. No, he just gave him the $200. And Jack opens up his own first gym in San Francisco. And he has no clients, nobody. And he's really having a hard time. So he goes back to his old high school, and he picks the skinniest kid and the most overweight kid. And he says to the parents, I will give you your money back if I can't change their lives. And so that's how he started getting students, and started getting a name around that kind of San Francisco area. And he actually, funny enough, the medical profession started calling him a quack, saying, you can't go to this guy. He's completely crazy. If you go to him, you know, they told athletes you won't be able to do sports, and just a lot of nonsense that they would really try to bring Jack down. But he was still pretty successful, and he was starting to build a name for himself, and he actually submitted pictures to that same magazine of himself and was named one of the new bodybuilding physiques of the California scene. So he's starting to get his name up there and starting to build, and then World War II hits. So now World War II comes, and Jack Lalanne serves on a ship, and he's in charge of, because he had some chiropractic background, he's in charge of recovery of patients, caregiving. And actually, his last assignment, he worked for rehabbing veterans, and he actually set up the first rehabilitation programs for veterans and for fitness servicemen that they use today, that they use higher standards to keep servicemen fit. He rehabbed, a lot of veterans really weren't cared for well, and Jack set up a whole program of weight training, aggressive weight training, as far as not only physical but emotional. He really knew that both played a part, so he really made an impact in those years. And then when the war ends, Jack comes back, and now it's late 1940s, coming into the 50s, and he's still got his gym, and he's starting to make a name for himself in Muscle Beach, which is starting to come on the scene in Southern California, Santa Monica. So as things are starting to roll for him, he has this one student, Betty Brown, who was a real success story, changed her whole life around. So he made her like the poster, the advertisement, and she was working the front desk. And she actually made a call to a local radio station that was doing TV shows at the time. TV was just coming on the scene, and it was called The Les Malloy Show. And she says, you have to put this guy on your show. He's fantastic. He's fascinating. His name is Jack Lalanne. And they book him, and the person that books him is this woman named Elaine Doyle, foreshadow, soon to be his wife, later on, many years later. So he gets booked on the show, and actually, funny thing about Elaine, she was actually, speaking of what's just happening now, we all know that Betty White just passed away. Same type of thing. Elaine was a lot ahead of her time. She produce shows. She was a Gal Friday, which really was acted as a co-host. So she was really in charge of booking guests and doing a lot for the show. So she books Jack Lalanne, and he knows, he starts having, what am I going to do on the show that's going to make a big splash? He understood about showmanship, and that just going on and being interviewed wasn't really going to be anything. So he figured out he would do push-ups for the whole entire length of the show. And lucky for Jack, it wasn't a 3-hour show, but only an hour. He does the push-ups through the whole show, and this is really wows everybody, and it's just an amazing story. He actually was on the show You Ask For It at the time. They brought him on as a guest, and he set a record for push-ups. He did, I believe it was over 1,000 push-ups in 23 minutes, which was just insane. And actually, on a side story, years later, when Jack was about 54 years old, he was challenged by this 21-year-old in a push-up contest, and he beat him. And that 21-year-old was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's how they met. Arnold had just come in to the Muscle Beach area, maybe 1 week in from his country in Austria, and boom, that was their first meeting. Jack challenged him to a push-up contest. Jack was like 54 years old at the time, but they had been friends ever since.
Steve, this is Arnold.
Arnold's on.
Arnold. I wanted to ask you. Actually, I had an idea to make the presentation more interactive. I think if we remove spotlight from you, that people, if they chime in, their video will come up. So if you give me the thumbs up, I'll go ahead and do that.
Do that.
Because I believe Steve wanted it to be an interactive presentation with people asking questions.
Absolutely.
So I will hit that. And if anybody has any questions for Steve, feel free.
Yes, I
There you go.
love some other interactive, so I don't have to ramble on. Does anybody, just up to this point, I mean, now that Jack has his own show, which I'll tell you a funny thing about Jack's first show, but does anybody, what is your experiences with Jack Lalanne? Have any of you heard of him, know of him?
That's right. Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Wait, what was that? It was hard to hear.
Oh, man.
I think that's a side conversation, Steve.
Oh, okay.
Take a
Yeah.
Whole Foods.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if you guys have a question, shout it out. Feel free. But so when Jack has this, he gets this first show. Hey, there you go. Now my brother is spotlighted. Oh, there you go. Hey, Amelia.
Hey, how you doing, Steve?
Oh, doing great. Now there's one of my clients. There's Amelia. How you? I love to see it. I love to see that you're jumped in there. Basically, when Jack has his first show, he does this funny thing. His show started in 1951, and he's got his very first show. But back then, shows were run by sponsors. So Jack Lalanne has this idea. He's going to teach people the sins of white bread, and he takes white bread and he mashes it up really good, and throws it on the ground. It makes a big thud, and he says, "This is what goes into your body. The evils of white bread." And unfortunately for Jack, that was the sponsor of the show, Langendorf White Bread. So they call up the station and they say, "Get this maniac off the TV right now." So he learned the lesson that day. He never once again referenced. I told him he should have used Wonder Bread, would have been way better. But he used Langendorf, so which was an old bakery back then. But that was, he was very interactive. I mean, it was funny, speaking about his small frame, they used to use small furniture on the set, which was interesting. They used small chairs, so he looked larger than life. So they used all kind of small furniture and different sets because, the magic of film, especially back then, was pretty interesting. But he
have a good day.
Did somebody have a question? No. But he was. He was the thing about Jack in his shows. He called his the people that were watching, the audience students, they were his students. And he had another little thing that he used to use, which was the use of his dogs. He really loved pets, he loved animals, and he had these German shepherds that he would use on his show. One German shepherd was called Happy. And if you ever YouTube the show, you'll see Happy. And actually, Happy was given to him by Zsa Zsa Gabor as a gift. Not sure why. But she gave him Happy. And he would use that dog because he knew kids loved animals. So he would say, okay, kids, go run and get your moms and dads and get in front of the TV. And Jack is waiting for you. So he understood how to use tools to get his audience up. And he used viewer mail. He was the first to use a lot of viewer mail to answer questions for people. People would write in and he would answer their questions right on the air. Actually, here's a picture of Jack. He sent me a picture. You can see, well, this is when he was alive. That's an older Jack right there. But he definitely really innovative in some of the aspects to which he ran his show. But the key behind his show and who really ran the show was Elaine. And she was really smart in how she would promote him and really understood the show. And she eventually left her other job to work with Jack full time. So before they got married, she was kind of his agent / manager and producer. And so she would run the Jack Lalanne show. And she would always be sitting there, and she smoked, and he would always try to go by her desk and tell her, look, you got to stop smoking. You got to eat better. She would eat, fast, whatever was on the move. And he brought her a model of the human lung to show her the evils of smoking. And see if I should have tried this, and I wouldn't be single. It's always the model of the anatomy that closes the deal, and that's what helped out for Jack. She finally succumbed, and they went on a date. And Jack was a really great singer. He was actually an opera singer. If he would have, he was an amazing singer. He ends all his shows singing. And if you YouTube him, you'll hear he actually sang with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, and so he was really talented. But he always says, "Thank goodness fitness got in the way of, or else I don't think I would have made it as an opera singer." But he really was a jack of all trades, and that's kind of a silly coin phrase that I use in the book. But he understood to keep gaining that promotion and to get his name more popularized, even just out of California. He would do these crazy events, these feats of daring strength, and one of them that he was famous for was he did this Alcatraz swim, where he would be handcuffed, and he would pretend to escape from Alcatraz prison and swim to Fisherman's Wharf, which was a very long swim in freezing water, 55-degree water, no gear or anything like that, just in trunks and handcuffed. And that was kind of the start of him doing these kind of crazy feats on every birthday he had. And it's kind of funny, the warden of Alcatraz didn't really... Jack said, I did this to give the prisoners hope. That they might be able to one day have that ability on their own. And the warden didn't like that because it became a thing that you can now escape from Alcatraz prison. Jack had a lot of, even with the good stuff, he always had a lot of backlash because he was, always trying to push people's buttons. But as the show went on, I mean, they had said when Jack started his show, it would be off the air within a month. And it lasted 34 years.
Wow.
It was the longest running show for its time, health and fitness show. So I know people usually, when they think back of fitness, they kind of go to the 80s and they know of the Jane Fonda videos and the Richard Simmons hysterical crying on your TV. But it really goes way back further than that. And it really traces back to Jack Lalanne. And all of these people credit him. I mean, Richard Simmons, when asked who was the first guest he wanted on the Richard Simmons show, he said Jack Lalanne. And they got Jack Lalanne for him, and he was just a big fan of Jack's. Lou Ferrigno watched the Jack Lalanne show and all of these, people and figures. And I think the best thing about Jack Lalanne, and as a trainer, is I take the same thing, is he really kept it simple. I know today with all of the fitness apps and tracking devices and Pelotons and CrossFit and all of the different ways to exercise to keep us entertained, he was really basic. He has this little idiom I could read you. It's very quick, very short. I should have it memorized, but let's see here. He has this little idiom that I put in the beginning of the book, and it says, "The best 6 doctors anywhere, and no one can deny it, are sunshine, water, rest, air, exercise, and diet. These 6 will gladly you attend if only you are willing. Your mind they'll ease, your will they'll mend, and charge you not a shilling." So he really said those basic things, if you live by that credo, you will always be okay. So he really kept it simple, and that's kind of something I try to do with my clients, is just about movement. And that's kind of the thing he preached his whole life, was just getting up, getting moving, things like that. He actually, he had another funny story that Betty Davis had suffered, the actress Betty Davis. She had suffered a really bad injury on the set of making a movie, and her back was out. And she was laid up for almost a year. And the only thing she would watch on TV was Jack Lalanne. And she credits him for getting her up and moving and back on the set. And she said she was so depressed, and so she didn't, they didn't really have rehabilitation back then or means. They just kind of laid there. So he really talked about, the affection of energy and getting up and moving. He tells stories about I love when people smile, and Elaine was like that too. They had a really good partnership, and she was the one that really put him around the globe. And she talked about syndicating his show, not just doing it locally. And that really is what made Jack Lalanne as we know him today, and how famous. She took the show and herself kind of transferred it around the country, started selling it to different markets, so they would be able to see the Jack Lalanne show. And later on, as Jack became more popular, that's when he got into some investments, some good, some bad, but one of them was the Jack Lalanne Health Spa, which he really just lent his name to. And he always jokes, he goes, "I lost a lot of money on that one." And I was not working at the Jack Lalanne Health Spas, but I worked at the following one, the Valley Total Fitness. And, it's hard. Health clubs back in that time were kind of tricky. There was really only not many. There was either Lucille Roberts for women or Jack Lalanne Health Spas for everybody else. And if you were a real bodybuilder or somebody in the other circle, you would work out at a Gold's gym. So there were really only, it was definitely not like it is today, where you have Planet Fitnesses and Crunches and all of the other gyms, New York Health and Racket, and so many choices. But I know a lot of you that are on here do really a lot of good, just simple exercises. I know, Gail, I always see your post that you're an avid bicycle rider. That's awesome. I think you're muted. I think a lot of people are. Lee, did you mute everybody? Oh, there you go.
No. You know what happened? Oh, yeah. No worries.
Oh, I know you wanted to make it interactive, and then you just muted everybody.
No, I didn't.
I know.
I did. I muted people with like barking dogs and like
okay.
ships and stuff in the background.
Wow,
So
you were able to just figure out who had the barking dog. That's fantastic, Lee. You are a great
Jimi
moderator.
Hendrix was in the background with his screaming feedback guitar, that kind of stuff.
That's
the parakeet.
I didn't even know you were still there, Lee. Thank you for still
yes, of course,
hanging around there.
Much like the Wizard of Oz, of course.
Oh yeah, sure. No, there was actually Elaine is actually now 96 years old, still kicking, still going strong. She actually just came out recently with a book about keeping moving and exercise. She's a motivational speaker. What else does she? She does a lot of things. She's actually really great. She's and she constantly is still promoting the Jack Lalanne name. She's if you ever hear her speak, she's like they were such a great. And another thing I'll show in the book is they really had a great marriage. They actually were both previously married before. They each this was their second marriage. Elaine had a first husband. Jack had a first wife, but they both had divorced and came together and had one son, John. He actually lives in California. He runs a surf shop in California. He's a big surfer, and he teaches celebrities how to surf. So that's a
Eva, I have a question. Are you familiar with something called Stay Fit Seniors?
Stay Fit Seniors?
Stay Fit Seniors.
No, I have not.
There is a chiropractor who just retired last month
Mhm.
who had a gym downstairs. I had been a member of Curves, the local Curves closed.
Right.
So I found this and it was very unnerving as a 70-plus-year-old person walking, going from spot to spot, because it was similar to Curves,
Right.
all of a sudden seeing on the cameras, on the videos rather, all of a sudden seeing Jack Lalanne. It has, somehow there's a connection there. They have since closed, they're selling their equipment, but that's why I signed up for this program, because I'm like, Jack Lalanne, nobody's heard of him for decades.
Right.
And here I was able to go there for about a month, and now they've, as I said, they've closed because the chiropractor retired.
Okay.
But he was right in Massapequa.
Oh wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I have not. I have not heard of Stay Fit Seniors. So, is there still a Stay Fit Seniors program, or is that?
I when I was looking into it before I joined,
Mhm.
it looks like it's something through the country
Okay.
for both men and women.
That's fantastic.
But this was just very, very coincidental.
Yeah, no, definitely. I
It
mean,
was at Dr. Margulies right on 107.
Dr. Margulies on 107. And he was a chiropractor. Did they do?
He was a chiropractor, and the gym was strictly downstairs in his building. But when he retired, he sold the building and everything.
Oh, okay.
What do you think of jazzercise?
Jazzercise?
Yes.
I
I've been
think.
doing it for 40 some odd years, and I'm 85 years old, and I'm still going strong with it.
Well, then you answered your own question.
I mean, do you know about it?
You don't need. You don't need. You know what? I think it's terrible. Stop doing it. I think it's fantastic. I think anything that you do to move is fantastic. I think, and you can ask Amelia. She's one of my clients up there, and she is fantastic. It's all about moving, and that's the one thing I've taken as a trainer, and all trainers should. I know some trainers get into that mode where they are trying to be more of a drill sergeant. And that might work for some people. That my style is more of I like to build people's confidence when I train clients, because I have a wide age range and people that have different injuries or different ailments that they have to watch for. So you really have to. I think the first thing when you're training a client is build their confidence. So if you're coming into the new year and anybody on this audience is thinking about joining a gym, the first things to look for in a gym is make sure it has the things that you feel comfortable with. If it's an exercise class, if it's lightweight equipment, if it's a pool, whatever you're looking for is, that's the first thing when you're looking to join a gym, and make sure it's not too far away, because if it's far away, you're not going. If it's more, I always use the 10-minute rule. If it's more than 10 minutes, 15 minutes starts to get...
Right now where we're doing it all virtual on the computer.
Right.
One thing about jazzercise, it is it's aerobic, it's strength training, it's with music, you feel like you're dancing. So that's what keeps me going.
That's fantastic. I mean, that was the success of Zumba. When Zumba was started in Miami, he was an aerobic teacher, and he didn't have his aerobic music with him that day. And he was actually from Latin America, but he had a lot of music with him. That was his own personal music, and he just played it for the aerobic class. And he said, "I have to play this today. I don't have any of the general what the club assigned as aerobic music." And boom, Zumba was formed. So great ideas are formed out of necessity. So you never know what's. But the idea is really just to do something you enjoy, and that's the goal. And I tell that to clients all the time. It shouldn't be a chore, and it shouldn't be hard. It should be fun. To move and to exercise. Are anybody on here currently working out or looking to join a gym? Nobody. New Year's resolutions, nobody's looking to join a gym.
I have a trainer that comes over twice a week.
Fantastic. Is that you, Michael?
Adam.
Oh, Adam. Oh, okay. Oh, Adam. Hey, you're on here.
Yeah,
Adam, who's the trainer that comes twice a week?
his name is Steve Kaminsky.
He is fantastic.
He's a trainer and a writer and an actor.
There's a way I can submit you the cash I owe you for that little plug. Thank you, Adam, and thank you for joining.
A lot of fun.
My clients are so good. I love that they jump in and help promote. But yeah, especially now you have to kind of find creative ways. I know it's not the most comfortable thing to go into a gym if you don't feel like you want to. So it's really boomed the home gym equipment industry. But you don't have to get complicated things. Like if you look behind me, I don't know if you can see this, I have a trampoline behind me. I had suffered an injury about a year ago. I had broken a bone in my leg, and I'm a avid runner. And so this was really tough for me, and I was nervous to go back to running because I didn't know if I'd be able to ever again, and I just had that worry and fear. So I went on Amazon and I bought myself a trampoline just to rehabilitate myself back, and now I incorporate it into my workouts, especially when there's bad weather outside and snow. And it was a mini trampoline. I got it for like $50 on Amazon. It's great. I love it. And I do some of my training with clients. They all bought one. So buy yourself a trampoline. And I'm not a pitch man for trampoline. So nothing I say here is as a pitch man. It's all it's just free advice. Enjoy. I know my brother Nick out there. He's you're doing the bicycle thing, right? You should tell Gail that you're doing bicycle as well. You have to unmute yourself, Nick.
Yeah, I know. I got it. Yeah, definitely been biking. It's a little hard now with the snow on the ground, but yeah.
Yeah, and my brother's wife also does, Joan. She does a lot of triathlons, and she's very active.
She signed up for a run tomorrow, actually, at Heckscher State Park.
Oh, okay. That should be tough, considering the weather. Yeah, it's going to be cold.
Hey, Steve.
I'm sorry?
It's Mike.
Oh, hey, Mike.
I'm curious, if you don't mind, just about your book.
Yes.
Did you approach Jack to do the book? Did you interview him?
No.
What's the story?
Unfortunately, Jack had passed away back in 2011 at the age of 96. But I did this all on my own as far as research and I actually did reach out to some people that had interviewed Elaine. So I spoke to some journalists that had magazine articles that I kind of through research was able to connect with through some local magazines and some things that there was a journalist. Her name was Kat Aguirre. She had spoke to Elaine a lot, so I thought she would be a good source to speak with. But otherwise, a lot of it was research on my own, watching a lot of Jack's interviews, things like that. So that's kind of it was hard because yes, I would have loved if Jack was still alive to have reached out, or if I had thought of it 10 years ago, if I was smart enough to have thought that to write this book a while ago. But sometimes the idea comes later. And I know you're going through that. You just wrote a book.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but we're on you now. So what has been the reaction from Elaine? Did she enjoy the book? Did she get a chance to read it?
I have not had any connection with her. I don't, it's hard because she's 96 years old. The accessibility is not as easy. I tried to reach out a little on her website, but there's, to get, to her, for something like that was a little hard. And there's not a lot of family. There's just the one son. So, for that matter, I had to do a lot of it on my own. So, but yeah, whenever you're trying to get source material, it's always great to go to the source and to interview. But in this case, it was just difficult because one had passed away and Elaine.
No, I'd give you a lot of credit for all the research you did on it on your own. It must have been more difficult not having a prime source.
Yeah, it was, but it was fun. I mean, I kind of like finding out about people's lives, and as a writer and things I've learned in my experience as writing and when I write scripts, or this, Michael, you're a writer, I write what you know. And this is a topic that I have a passion for and know about, so I thought people would be interested at somebody who was, made such an impact into, because fitness is I gave you the numbers, it's an enormous industry. The nutrition and fitness industry, the way gyms open up every day, and even during the pandemic. I mean, now there's online personal training platforms that I actually do as well. There's an online training platform so I train and give people programs that are all over the world. So it's pretty interesting. I get to see how they kind of view exercise in all different places, So I have clients around the country or in China, in Asia, all over the place, because they just sign up online on the platform and everybody wants to exercise. I mean, that's the end goal is, they want to find out what they need to do to hit their fitness goals. So it's pretty good that people have that energy and that want to keep it going. Hey, Vincenza. It's so great that so many people have the interest to jump on here today. And to, it's funny, Jack actually used 4 German Shepherds on his show. He didn't always use Happy. Happy had stand-ins many times. They actually ran a contest, and you could name one of the dogs. And one of the girls, a little girl, wrote in and named one of the dogs Walter. And it stood for "We all love to exercise regularly." And so the dog's name was Walter. And so he had a lot of German Shepherds. You can't tell the difference, but you should watch a lot of the YouTube videos. They're really great. You can see all the old shows, and it's a simple set. He just uses a chair and a lot of self-body weight exercises. There's a little organist that plays music, and he used to come out of the shadow, and it said, "And now a man who will make you look better and feel better, Jack Lalanne." And he would come out, and he actually had his mom on the show once. He always credits it. He had a really close relationship with his mom, and he had her on the show several times, hawking his books. She would say, "Oh, I changed my life because of Jack," and so she was really a supporter of him, really great supporter. Actually, yeah, that he did that. His last big feat that he did, I think he was about 70 years old, and he towed 70 boats around him, and it was like 70 people. It was this crazy feat, and he would do these things every birthday to show you're never too old to do something, and just to keep it going. And then finally, I think it was, but when he was almost 90 years old, he finally stopped doing them, only because Elaine forced him. He would do workouts until he passed away every morning, 4:30 in the morning. He would do 2-hour workouts and then an hour swim. And so, yeah, he was legendary. He invented a lot of the exercise equipment that are in gyms today. If you have ever used the leg extension, it's because of Jack Lalanne. Anything selectorized, Jack Lalanne was the guy who. But the thing that he didn't. That he did have a problem with, he didn't patent a lot of his equipment, so he didn't make as much money on those kind of aspects as he should have. But he did all right financially. He did fine. He's doing all right. You don't have to worry about Jack and the family.
I don't think he did specifically for financial reasons. I really think he wanted to see a healthier America, and he truly believed in it. And when he held a position or he did something, I mean, not one muscle twitched. Even as he got older, it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he lived it, and he inspired so many people, and that was really his main goal. And only if you have a goal of that is why it's sustainable. If you have a goal that if he was driven by money or something like that, like the Charles Atlases or the other people, it'll be fleeting. That's why he was able to sustain it, because of his passion to make a difference in people's lives, and 100%. I mean, if you watch, like I said, a lot of those interviews, he can't stop talking. Like, the interviewer could never butt in to ask a question, because they'll say, Jack, what do you think? And then, boom, that's it. 10 minutes of him going, you got to move, you got to exercise, he'd be screaming. And he kept that energy up into his 90s. So it's really amazing. He really lived quite a life and made quite an impact. And I always say there's no Arnold Schwarzeneggers, and there's none of these spaces for these people, even The Rock today, and for these people to have kind of combined fitness into celebrity careers. The Rock is able to turn his fitness prowess into movie careers, and Arnold did that, and all the rest. And that's really because of Jack putting it mainstream and not making it an odd thing to want to exercise. So he was definitely great for that. And you could check out, he has the juicer. So he still has the juicer still sells. I looked it up, and you can still buy yourself a power juicer. He started that. He was an advocate of juicing. That's kind of was later in his life. Was his whole diet was juicing, and he had a power juicer that him and Elaine would sell on infomercial shows late at night, and he really stressed the importance of eating fruits. Nothing man-made. If man-made, don't eat it, is what he would say. His quotes were really legendary. He would say, would you give a dog a cigarette, a cup of coffee, and a donut for breakfast? So why would you do that to yourself? I think he was trying to stress, like, you take care of your pets, you take care of your car. Would you put sugar in the gas tank of your car? No, of course not. If you have a beautiful car, you're going to take care of it. So why do you treat your body any less? And he made people think, because back in Jack's day, in that early time, people looked on movies, and glamour was a cigarette and a cocktail. Like, that was the sign of success and glamour. Nobody really cared about being in shape. So, if you had one of those cigarettes and you were like the movie people on the big screen, that was great. But I mean, if it's funny, if you ever I watched a lot of those videos of, he was on the Groucho Marx show, Jack Lalanne. He made appearances on a lot of shows, and everybody's smoking on these shows. Like, they would give cartons of cigarettes to the guests. They'd be like, and this is sponsored by, Hackett's Smoke, and they would get just a cloud of smoke around the guests. So I don't understand, but I guess it needed many years to understand that's probably not the best thing for you. But, and if you are smoking out there, try to stop. That's my public service announcement, or anything else. Does anybody, if you have, shout it out if you have any. Did anybody belong to a Jack Lalanne health spa? Anybody out there?
I had joined in 1988 when they opened the one in Levittown, which later turned into Bally's.
Okay, so you remember when it was a Jack Lalanne health spa?
Yes, I think I remember there was one in Hicksville many years ago that was just men, and then eventually they allowed women to go.
Oh, wow.
And but I think that was one of the first ones. Now I go to World Gym in Wantagh.
World's Gym in Wantagh is a very good gym. I know it well. He used to, the old Jack Lalanne commercials for his health spa, they had, like, first-time actress Heather Locklear's first gig was a commercial for a Jack Lalanne health spa. That was one of her first appearances on television. Cher used to do a lot of Jack Lalanne commercials. Mark Gastineau, the former Jet.
Yes.
So that was kind of, he used to get a lot of famous celebrities. That was the only gym really in town. That was what you would go to. And it had all these neon lights. It was big for neon lights. It had all these lights all over the place. They were big on lights and mirrors. So
Yeah, the one in Levittown was beautiful. I remember
Uh-huh.
when they were building it, and I signed up while they were still doing construction, and that was a beautiful gym for a long time.
yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing about a gym is, and from my experience working for many years in the gym, is cleanliness. And like I said, just making sure that's the first thing when you walk into a gym. Check, make sure it's how clean. It has things you're looking for, a lot of different choices, and don't sign long-term contracts. I think that's where people run into a problem when they run into these gyms. Is Oh, I have a question from Maureen Feliciano.
Yes.
How tall was Jack? I mentioned Jack was not a very large man. He was about 5'5". So they made him, like I said, appear bigger on television by shrinking the studio to miniaturize the so Jack looked larger than life. But he was. So that was kind of his thing. So it really shows that it doesn't matter in that world. It's really what he spoke on, which was made him 10 feet tall. So that's why he's really great. And it just struck a chord with me. I know it's not from my time period, but I guess someone in the industry I thought it was important that he be recognized because fitness plays a huge part in all of our lives. So for someone that made such an impact, it's important. So everybody's homework today is try to watch something of Jack. watch a 30-second clip of Jack Lalanne. Maybe that'll inspire you to join a gym or buy something on Amazon to exercise at your home. Get a jump rope. I'm a big jump rope person. That's always fun, but be careful. I don't want to get anybody hurt here and do that. But thanks. I want to thank everybody again. Lee, are you still there, or did you fall asleep?
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, great.
What I was going to tell you actually is wait. Oh wait.
Yeah.
What?
Thank you, Lee. Now,
what's going on?
hey, Lee.
No. What I wanted to actually tell you is
Tell me.
You got a few questions in chat.
Oh, sure.
Now,
Can you send them out? Let me know.
Yeah. Let's take a look and see here. You got a bunch, right?
Oh.
And you got somebody that just came in the waiting room too. So let's let that nice person.
Oh, he's been in. He
Chat,
was in before.
Oh, okay.
He might have just ran to the bathroom.
Okay, so somebody was
Yeah.
asking. So a lot of people were like, "Hey, Steve,"
Sure.
But one of the questions was, can you send us any handouts or any extra outlines or tips and notes on healthy practices, better eating, balancing our lives better, based on Jack Lalanne or on your philosophy's aim on healthy lifestyle? I guess when I unmuted, no one seemed to have heard me. And then I don't remember if I heard that person. That's okay. But that was the main part of the
Let me
question.
ask you this. I'll ask Lee, but or else, if you want to put on the library site, or I could give my email now. Is that okay to give my email?
That's okay. If people wish to write to you, that's okay. Sure.
If they wish to write to me. So if you have questions further about anything, feel free. My email is basically my name, Steven, Steven, and my last name is Kaminsky, Kaminsky, 31 at gmail.com. And kept it pretty simple. Steven Kaminsky, 31 at gmail.com. And, send me your questions. And if I can answer them, I'd be happy to. Was there someone else, Lee, that had?
There was one other thing, but somebody was asking if we were going to record this event. So, as Steve and I were discussing before, we're gonna try to record this and put it on the library's YouTube channel. Steve may record it as well, but but yeah, I mean, so if people are interested afterwards, they should be able to see the presentation.
Now,
And,
Lee, the library also has virtual fitness events as well, right? They do, I've seen them, right? Like a chair yoga and different fitness events. So if you go on the library site, where can they find those events?
Well, yeah, if you go to the library's website, there's links to sign up for events, and we have a number of things. We have a virtual yoga class. We have a virtual chair yoga class. We have Tai Chi. We have strength training. and they're all things like there's an instructor, and it's sort of like those old school exercise videos. You know, there's an instructor, you see them on your screen, they're moving around, there's Michael Jackson music. It's awesome. So if you want to,
Was that, were you just doing, was that Tai Chi, Lee, or what were you doing there?
that was Lychee.
That looks like a scene from Cobra Kai.
It is.
Fantastic.
Oh my God.
No, but they are offering, it is, you know, they do have a lot of events which are, or a lot of programs which are good like that. And that's, you know, wherever you can find something is important. And especially, you know, that's the only thing I would always say is always try to, the best information you can get is if it's diet or fitness, and make sure you're always safe and careful, especially with dieting. I mean, there's so many different diets out there. There's, you know, diets always went through this trend of what's ever trendy. I mean, when you go back, there was Atkins diet, South Beach diets, then it went to paleo and keto, and I think there's like Oreo. No, there's no Oreo. There's all kinds of crazy. Now there's intermittent fast. So I think the best thing that I always try to tell my clients is something sustainable and comfortable for you. Everybody knows what are basic, sensible choices, and that's the best diet you can have. And that's what Jack would always say. It doesn't have to be complicated. Keep it simple. So that's if it was good enough for Jack, it's good enough for me. And that's, wow, people are still coming in, and even though we're on a delay. But so, like I said, you feel free to always, you can reach out via my email or on Instagram. Nick, did you have a question? You're in the spotlight.
I'm in the spotlight.
Yeah. Did you have anything, or you're just just hanging? But I just want to thank Lee, the library, and thank all of you guys for being a part of the program today. Thank you so much. And these are great topics, and look out for more programs. You can, my book is always on Amazon. Anything is possible. I'll show you to you one more time. Anything is possible. I picked that picture of Jack. This was in an old apartment of Jack's. He's doing a headstand, and Elaine is there, and in the corner, there's a picture of his two dogs. So it was kind of an all-encompassing. I won't even tell you what I paid for this picture to use it on the cover of my book, because it probably put me in the red for quite some time. But I felt like if I was going to do this book, I wanted that picture on the cover, because that really embodied Jack. That he was just, even at home, he's just doing crazy, you know, crazy handstands and things like that. It's actually, let me show you one picture quick. It's hard. It's black and white of an early Jack Lalanne. This is an early Jack Lalanne, if many of you can see it in the top there. So really, I mean, that's him later doing one of his swims, but that's an early picture. I believe that's 1948, so that's a young Jack right there. And he was in amazing shape. He used to do photo shoots, things like that. So tried to put, you know, a few pictures in there, even though they were very costly to attain. I had to, you have to do it that way, or else you'll be winding up in a lot of legal issues. But
do we have Steve's book in our library?
I think, Lee, the book is in the library, right?
It is in the library, yes. I believe we only have one, but maybe we can get more. So, yeah, we're real happy to have it in the library too, I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you, Lee.
We try to, you know, when we have local authors, we try to get things by them, and you know what, and we're glad to be able to. So if you want, if it's out, you can put your name down for it. We'll hold it for you. We'll get it for you. And I'd also like to say, and this doesn't have a direct bearing on Steve's presentation, but if anybody has questions about any of those exercise classes, because Steve raised that point that we do have exercise classes, you can call up the library too. You can call up the library, you can ask for reference, and we can sign you up for those kind of things if you're interested. So so please feel free to do that too. I know that that's a tangent, but I might as well bring it in.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Exactly. And you'll probably get my sister on the phone.
Probably.
And also access the calendar, because there's other very good programs that Massapequa Library runs.
They do. They run a lot of good programs. So definitely you can always check on the website, and they have a really good array of programs. And so Lee, if you don't have anything further,
You know what? We are just so happy that you came down to do the presentation, and you know what? We're grateful to you. You really enlightened us. Sorry about my little mess up in the beginning, but
Oh, that's quite quite all right. That's all right.
Anyway,
it's a long title. Anything is possible. I know it's it's hard. I know you were off book, Lee. It was we'll have to work on your acting skills.
Yes, a little bit.
But thank you guys so much for coming and spending some of your afternoon with us. We really appreciate it, and great to see some people I haven't seen so long. And hope you guys are happy New Year, happy healthy New Year. Thank you
Great
again
job.
so
You
much.
too.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks again, and have a great day. And thanks again, Steve. Take care, right?
Thank you, Lee.
Everybody have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thinks in there, he keeps